Middlekauff. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Haberman and Middlekauff show or podcast. It's, we're pretty loose with the name. A lot of people spend a lot of time, John, nailing down their opening music and the name and the logo, and we really do not a lot of that. We don't particularly care. But welcome to the show. Call it whatever you want.
We've had people send us music before. I like the last song, I think.
We still got that. But, we got a song for the show after doing the show for, like 4.5 years, maybe more, 5 years. So I'm just saying, like, if you're going to start a podcast, who cares about your logo? Who cares about your song?
True. Derek Papa might be back in town, so we can have him, just go in the lab, just throw us something, see if he's throwing his fastball. We don't know,
That's true. We haven't heard his stuff in a while. Is it still inspired?
Yeah, you remember some guys start throwing. Tim Lincecum was throwing 98, and then all of a sudden he was throwing 89. You're like, what's going on?
Yeah, I watched some of Game 7 of the 2014 World Series last night, Wednesday night, and Tim Hudson started that game.
What was he throwing?
I don't know. I only watched the top of the first when Jeremy Guthrie was on the mound.
Oh.
But maybe I'll get to Tim. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of the first inning tonight.
You made it through a half inning?
A half inning. Well, I watched the whole open. That's really what I wanted, just like the juice of the whole thing. And then by the time I watched the first inning, what happened? Partly what happened is I watched the first inning, and I thought, Gregor Blanco leads off with a home run. But no, he didn't. I was like, oh yeah, no, panic! It's a homer here. It's like, no, he didn't. I was like, fuck, forget it. I'll watch this later. Thinking about different games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sports guy through and through. It's 30 plus years of being a diehard sports fan, dedicated my life, parts of the profession. And I tweeted this last night during the Mavericks Suns game. Not a drug guy, though I've dabbled in THC, but nothing hardcore. And I can imagine going from Memphis, Golden State, the come down of a hardcore drug is like going to Suns Mavericks, because that game, to my soul inside, did nothing. I mean, that game felt, and I'm not being a hater. I'm just talking about I watch Bumgardner argue with that ump. Like, that kind of gets me going. Like,
hell yeah.
You see different things kind of get you going. That I'm just watching this game, and it does nothing to my insides. And it felt like a December, January game. Luka's great, making these crazy plays. Did nothing, guy. It was crazy. I'm like, I love the NBA playoffs. And maybe it's just because how unique the Warriors Memphis feels, like an NFL fucking playoff series, let alone on a basketball court. That Suns Mavericks game, bleh.
I know. Partly you have to feel something, and like Game 1 wasn't close, and Game 2 got close for a minute, but in the fourth quarter, but then I just
don't feel it,
Yeah, I understand. I get it.
Yeah.
No one's shoving Chris Paul. Nobody's mad at Luka. Like, can we get something?
Yeah, just
coaches don't scream at each other. Every coach is just either a former player or Taylor Jenkins.
I like that guy's look. His name, doesn't he? He sounds like, who's your O-line coach? Taylor Jenkins.
Taylor Jenkins, absolutely.
You could just see him. Who's that big guy? Assistant O-line coach? Oh yeah, former guard from Texas A&M, Taylor Jenkins. Kind of loves this guy.
If you told me that Taylor Jenkins knows every O-line coach within a 50-mile radius of West Texas A&M, I would have believed you. If you had just said, like, this guy, this is the Chris Kasarik of FCS football offensive line coaching, I'm like, yeah, that's him. There he is.
O-line coaches have friends. I'll never forget when I worked for the Eagles, Howard Mudd, RIP. I'm walking downstairs, I think, to get a snack. All of a sudden, I look down at the bottom of the stairs, this guy walking up, sliders and his jersey and his hat. It's Terry Collins. Mets are playing the Phillies. Him and Howard Mudd have been friends for like 40 years.
Terry Collins.
He walked over from the yard, because it's not very far away, in his outfit. It was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Game doesn't, players aren't even there yet.
You gave me the tour, but for people to understand, the football stadium and the baseball stadium, it's like a parking lot, basically, is what separates them, right?
And the basket and Wells Fargo. It's all kitty corner. It's pretty, wouldn't you say? I mean, in all your experience of going to different cities, an incredible setup of just athletic.
It's a great
sweetness.
setup. Yeah, it's a pretty great setup.
Yeah, it's cool.
And they got concerts there.
It's sweet.
Yeah, Middlekauff gave me the whole tour of the Ivacare. What was it called? Not Ivacare Center. Novacare.
Novacare, yeah.
We ate there. Cheap.
Oh.
That was part of it. It was cheap. We're like, let's eat.
Yeah, 100%.
John, before we go any further, let's tell John, let's tell the people about our friends. It's son of a bitch. John, let's tell the people about our friends at Manscaped. Manscaped with a promo code HAM. Get you 20% off right now, listeners. Are you ready to be blown away? Woo, woo, woo. Sirens alert, it says in the script. You asked for it. They listened. Our friends at Manscaped just relaunched the Ultra Smooth package. It's back, baby.
Yep. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM, 20% off. Lawnmower 4.0, best ball trimmer ever invented. I feel very, very confident, right? Michael Jordan, best basketball player ever. Tiger Woods, best golfer ever. Lawnmower 4.0, best testicle trimmer you'll ever find. No snags, no nicks. It's USB charger, waterproof, got the LED lighting. I don't know. I speak from experience. It's elite.
Yep. Here's the deal. This is how you shave close. You grab your handy Lawnmower 4.0. You give them a classic trim. Okay? You get the loose hairs out of the way. Then you take out the Manscaped Ultra Smooth package. You get the crop exfoliator. Then you go crop gel. Then it's time to shave. The Precision, 3 of them. Blades include extra wide lubricating strips and a pivoting head for the ultimate grooming experience with the crop shaver. That's step 4. So this is getting you ready for the summer. 20% off and free shipping with code HAM at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping. Code HAM, manscaped.com. Smooth out you fellas. With the relaunched Ultra Smooth package for the fellas at manscaped.com. Promo code HAM.
Promo code HAM. Saw someone in the chat talking about Toto Wolff.
Yeah.
You know,
Mercedes-Benz.
Not a big, I don't refuse. I just never end up watching it. But the series was pretty special. Toto was a pretty great character. Yeah. I mean, he's just this German killer, very serious with an incredible resume.
Well, one thing, it's easy to follow, right? Him versus the Red Bull guy. Pretty easy rivalry.
Yeah. Well, honestly doesn't feel like if you were friends with one of them, it'd be easier to be friends with the Red Bull guy. More normal.
Definitely. But like, he's the one that feels like sometimes he creates a little bit of the animosity, you know?
Well, Toto's, you know, the German, I have some in me. You just kind of look cold, rough around the edges, so you don't give anything, even though you're coming for their throat. Like Toto's like a silent killer because he's not going to talk a lot of shit.
Mercedes didn't show up till season 2. Like, they're just kind of above the whole thing is the vibe you get from them, right?
Yeah. In fairness, they were kicking ass. They were Mercedes. They didn't think they needed it, and then they saw how great it was, and then they got involved.
The $800 tickets starting price for the big race this weekend.
Did you see some of the visuals of the setup? It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, well, because they made it look like Monaco on the infield grass, basically.
It looks pretty badass. Not gonna lie. It looks. Again, this is the problem with F1 for me. When I see the picture of the race, like the setup in Vegas, setup in Miami, it looks cooler than actually then consuming it when they're racing around the track.
That's right. Darren B, probably Darren Baker, says should have Greg Papa do the ham intro.
You got to save those pipes, you know, for a touchdown in San Francisco.
Well, it says Papa. Does it mean Greg Papa or Derek Papa?
He must mean Derek. Derek's the producer. Derek is the maestro.
Maybe you get a Papa family production.
Yeah, get some other Papas involved. I mean, I think there's 5 kids.
A lot of Papas.
I think I've only met one. I met his youngest son. Long time ago. Kid might be like, who knows now?
Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. All right.
LeBron.
Hey, if you're listening to this podcast after the fact, subscribe to go check out our YouTube channel. If you're watching this YouTube, our podcast is down in the description below. And we're going to do a mailbag for this weekend, or this weekend we'll have a mailbag show. So go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, 5 stars, leave us a question, anything at all. You want to tell us your favorite bar in there? That's cool as well. And it'll be a good time.
Yeah, it all goes.
John, I have something to reveal to the people. I've done some video sleuthing. You know, I watch games like a shark. I watch the backgrounds of games. A lot of people just watch games. I watch the backgrounds. And as we record this or do this live, depending on how you're consuming, on Thursday afternoon, Woj earlier on Thursday reported that the NBA is suspending Dylan Brooks for Game 3 on Saturday. I think you could argue that you could suspend him for a couple of games, honestly. I thought his foul on Gary Payton II was worse than Draymond's flagrant 2. We now know that what we thought was going to be the case is the case. Gary Payton is significantly injured, a fracture and a ligament issue. And I think you and me and most people that watched it, it was pretty clear, given what happened with Draymond in game 1, that Memphis set into game 2 with a plan to hammer somebody with no regard for what came from that action. And I feel like I have proof. I'm going to show you now what happened after the foul of GP2. And what's important to watch is in the upper right-hand corner, who high-fives teammates after injuring a player, or low-fives teammates after injuring a player, unless they were just executing the plan. Good job. Good job. I don't know about where you're from, John. Where I'm from, a little dap means good job, good job. Good job. Good job. It's undeniable. Good job.
Sneaky daps.
Yeah. It's undeniable. I mean, this was part of the plan. And even after the players land there on the ground, good job. Good job. That's I don't know, again, where you're from, that's what a low-fi means to me.
Well, where I'm from is I grew up on the NBA like most kids that were born in the 80s. And the NBA under Michael Jordan was as big as the NFL and as big as baseball. And they were massive, obviously, in the 90s. It was, this type of shit happened a lot. So this is not abnormal to playoff basketball. Now, this is, I would say, abnormal to Silver's league that has become much softer, and there's just none of this going on.
I would say, it's, I do think pre-Silver, the NBA changed this. The NBA changed.
I would say in the late 2000s, it was still pretty physical. Yeah, they're not fist fights, but they're still hard fouls. I mean, the Ben Wallace, that some of those guys, Alonzo Mourning, the end of his career, some of the tough guys, there just aren't as many of those guys in the NBA. But part of this, now listen, if you get a DUI in front of your house, you just, I don't know what, I've never got a DUI, but you pay a hefty fine and you get in trouble, right?
You ever been pulled over in front of your house?
I have. Well, I mean, down the street, but that was, probably 2001. That was a long time ago. But thanks to my dad for getting me out of that one. That was an ugly night. I begged the cop, take me with you. He's like, no, you're going home. I said, no. But that was young and stupid. Mm-hmm. But the point is, you just get in trouble. You get a driving under the influence, DWI. They have a couple of the names, but you don't go to jail, right? But if I get a DUI where I crash into someone and injure them, the penalty is completely different, right? So if GP2 had gotten up and been completely fine, I do not think he gets suspended. Do you agree with that? Again,
I mostly agree with that.
Hops back up.
Yeah.
Not
the only thing that makes me think about it is I do think the act itself was worse than Draymond's. He doesn't jump. He doesn't really look at the ball. It's more aggressive. And I think the NBA would also go, okay, we just had a game 1 flagrant 2. We just had a game 2 flagrant 2. We don't want a game 3 flagrant 2. But I think you're probably right. So
you could do one of those, like it happens in baseball when a series is like kind of gotten out of control and they warn the teams before the game. And sometimes I love it when an old school baseball guy still blasts the first guy up or like their third hitter and he gets immediately tossed and he knew it was coming. He didn't even give a shit, which you're right. They might have done that no matter what. But I do think the results matter. And you're right. It was a lot of people I've seen in the chat, I've seen people talking about it, like dirty play. Well, part of quote unquote sending a message, and I would say this comes in football and basketball, always has a chance to be dirty, right? We've seen in baseball, the ball gets away, hits a guy in the face. In football, sometimes when it's like, we got to lay a guy out early. Sometimes it's a crisp hit and the guy jumps right back up, but you set the tone. And sometimes the guy's KO'd for the game. And I think I'll even give Dylan Brooks, never met the guy, don't know him, I mean, loosely followed his career. I don't think any professional athlete, unless you're just a royal piece of shit, and obviously they're a piece of shit in every industry, so they're going to be some in pro sports. He wanted to break the guy's elbow. Like if he knew what he was doing, he was just hoping to take him out, set the tone, like, hey, Golden State, everyone's blowing you. We all think you're going to win the championship again. Not if we have something to say and we've rallied inside the troops, like we're going to take someone out. And part of taking someone out sometimes is there's a fine line of just knocking the guy down, and that guy can get hurt sometimes. And that's why I think Kerr was so caught up. But he's been a part of a lot of these games in the 90s when people get taken out. It just happened that he broke his elbow. And I think part of it is the guy who would, like, obviously it would have been even a bigger story if it was Steph or Clay or whatever. but I think what he represented, like you took out one of their tough guys who I think Kerr is the coach and the
worked
human
his
in
whole
him.
career,
Yeah,
6 years to
sucks.
get here.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
But it sucks that he got injured, but the NBA has waited a long time to have, like, they have floated in apathetic waters for a little while. And this is the first time. And this is what I talk about the Suns and the Maverick series does nothing for me, because there's just these teams. Not only do they not even, I don't even think they can like care about each other. It just doesn't matter. Right. I mean, Chris Paul been on like 5 teams in 6 years. It feels like, Luka's playing with a bunch of guys I couldn't point out of a lineup. Devin Booker's really likable. Like, I don't know. He's just likable. Like, he's not like angry. DeAndre Ayton's always smiling. There's just not much anger in that series. Jason Kidd's made $300 million. Happy. He looks like he's eating well. It's just a lot of happiness. The Memphis Warriors series feels like like the Kings. And remember when we grew up, the Kings and Lakers, it felt like they fucking hated each other. Literally, they got in fights. I mean, Rick Fox and Doug Christie, like there was hate and animosity. And even with the money in the NFL, which is clearly exploded, doesn't it feel like there's still like vitriol between teams and like legit hatred? And part of it is guys don't move around quite as much. The NBA has lacked that until this series, so it totally sucks. I did not want Gary Payton. I'm a Warriors fan, but I do like that the animosity has boiled over. Like, to me, that's good for the sport. The rating Saturday night is going to be massive.
Yeah. Yeah. It also, the fact that it weakens the Warriors and makes the series more competitive also is good for the ratings of this. It makes it more likely this thing goes 6 or 7 games. So that's true too. I mean, all of this in the big picture is good for the league.
Totally
it just
agree.
Is.
Like one thing that's clear. One thing I'd say that's clearly,
but Gary Payton being hurt is not good for the Warriors championship.
No.
Hopes, and the Warriors are good for the NBA also. So if it costs the Warriors a deeper run, then that's bad for the NBA.
I think an area. I mean, the NBA had a lot of different things they were dealing with, but one area that I think clearly the consumer just tapped out of, that like it feels bigger on social media than it being reality. The Ben Simmons types, the Zion types, the never playing, and then talking about are they going to get traded and the money. It's like, I think that is not. And the NBA really, the people that talk about it really lean into that. And this is what made the NBA big. Hatred on the court. It's why my issue, Chris Russo and JJ Redick got into it. It's like, Chris, I agree, like, shut up Ben Simmons or Zion or like those type situations. Draymond's talking about basketball and on the court and getting a hard foul. Like, this is basketball.
Well, Draymond Green is one of the best assets the NBA has.
I know, but he's specifically he's not telling you like about his thoughts on abortion.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. This is basketball. Why Draymond's one of the best assets the league has, because he gets really passionate about basketball.
Well, because when we were kids, it was like the Knicks and the Bulls. They would have the same type things talking about the game, about getting fouled and tossed and all that shit. Like, that's, to me, they yearn for this stuff. It's what I don't think it thrives on. Right
I don't think it's an accident. Like you said to me the other night, you're like, why does it always feel like the Warriors get in some of these situations? Well, I don't think it's an accident that the Warriors are in these situations a lot. They're the same team year after year after year. Their core remains the same. So it's, it's Draymond and it's Steph and it's Clay, and it's like, I think that's part of why it feels that way. It's because they are rare. Their best players are just a collection of them as long as we've known them.
Well, think about this. I was thinking about it actually today, and I've been thinking about it for a while, about the Patriots, and just, I think you could think about the Chiefs in the Mahomes era. They've been involved in some crazy shit. The Edelman play last year with Joe Burrow, the play at the end of the half. The Wasp play, just some crazy thing. Now a Hill trade. They've just been a part of some big moments the last 4 or 5 years. Why? They're playing in all the big games.
Yeah. Well,
if
the Patriots
play in the big games.
Was that your point? The Patriots
have. Yeah, the Patriots did it for 2 decades, which will never be seen again. The Bulls did it forever. Then, like, LeBron, just wherever he went, did it forever. It's like Tiger did it forever. Well, if you're just in the biggest moments, in the mix, that's when the biggest shit happens. Why? Flagrant twos happen during the regular season. People get tossed and suspended all the time. No one's paying attention. No, not a soul. The NFL is a little different because we consume the regular season at a really high rate.
Well, the players play the regular season at a very high rate.
For sure. And you only play so many games. So if a guy gets suspended, it's a really big deal. But, like, I bet guys got suspended throughout the season for flagrant twos and just different shit in the NBA, but just no one, unless it's like Anthony Davis or LeBron or Steph Curry, like no one notices. But in a playoff series, when 11 million people watch game one, like this feels for the first time to me in years big. And again, I'm a little biased. We're close to it, but this feels bigger than any playoff series in years. And just the, I guess, just the microscope that's on the NBA right now. That really matters. So people like, what's going on?
Well, the Warriors, I think, I said this the other day, like Steph is, I don't know if some people would argue this, number one draw. I think he's a bigger draw than LeBron for television right now, and has been.
I think LeBron's runs over of your interest.
Maybe. I mean, maybe, but he's still one of the best players in the league.
I don't mean as a talent. I just mean,
no, I understand. But what I'm saying
random guy under 40, they're like, yeah, I'm over LeBron.
Yeah, but he could end up on a good team again, and if they're in the postseason, and he's not quite as dominant as he once was. But
you think LeBron would go to a good team? That was being sarcastic. That was a joke.
But I think the Warriors have been the best draw the NBA has now for several years. They just had a bad year and then the COVID year, and they've just been away for a little while. But this is who they are. They are the number one attraction in the league. As it relates to Dillon Brooks, by the way, I have met him and I have talked to him, and he wouldn't remember it, but I've liked him. But somebody reminded me when he was at Oregon, they played in a lot of big games, and he played for a tough coach, Dan Altman.
Didn't they go to the Final Four?
They went to a Final Four and an Elite Eight. The Final Four, freshman guard off the bench actually became true freshman starting point guard on that team was Peyton Pritchard on their Final Four team.
Was that the year the dude the Warriors drafted got hurt and they lost a player right before the tournament and they made a run, or was that the Elite Eight year?
I don't remember. I think it was Chris Boucher was the guy that got hurt. They also had Jordan Bell.
The Final Four year, Jordan Bell made some sweet plays. I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember which year was which, but
it was a long time ago now.
But my point is that Dillon Brooks was kind of, I'd forgotten this till somebody who covered Oregon said this to me, like Dillon Brooks was by far and away, every team they played, the other fans hated Dillon Brooks. Like he just got under everybody's skin, which, if you do it while also competing, think about the guys.
Isn't that Draymond's role? People hate Draymond.
It's like, these are the best competitors. So that's kind of who he's always been.
Right before we hopped on, did you see that Draymond got fined $25,000?
Yeah, exactly. 25. Draymond called a shot.
I think he must know it's the max because Kyrie got 25 too. I just had this thought right before we hopped on. I was taking a little whiz, and I love that. I haven't used that term in a while, whiz. And
was a good one.
I think that flipping off opposing fans means like things are kind of going well. Like it's an interesting moment for your sport. You should only get fined if you flip off someone at your home arena, because that's like bad business. Yeah. To me, flipping off away, like this is, what do you think? Like Vince McMahon or Dana White, like they kind of like, this is kind of good. You're not a basketball product as much as you are a TV product, and obviously basketball is what people are paying to see, but it's a TV show and that type stuff. Even Kyrie was flipping off the away fans. I mean, I think it's good for business.
Fans of that, not just any fan base, the Celtics fan base.
Yeah,
I wish that series was better or later. That has been the other it's not as competitive. Actually, it was pretty competitive. That's been the other great series in this postseason. Was Nets Celtics for the same reasons.
You see Luka take 2 steps to that dude, and then the trainer immediately got in front of him.
All right, you want to talk some football?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this from NFL reporter Matt Lombardo. That's not NFL reporter Matt Lombardo. Hold on. Let's talk about this from NFL reporter Matt Lombardo. I have heard that the 49ers staff has been continually underwhelmed by Trey Lance, he said, in response or in a retweet of a Hayden Winks tweet that says, if Jimmy G stays in the Niners this year, I'm convinced Shanahan wanted Mac Jones and was forced into Lance. But I've heard the Niners staff has been continually underwhelmed by Trey Lance. Thoughts?
A couple people texted me when this tweet kind of went viral in 49er land. And my initial, just once I let it marinate, I'm not a big live in the past guy. And we all acknowledge 2021 was a bumpy road for him. But in football, like a guy can not be good and then he can be good. It's 2022. I just brought up our the first year, like when we truly, I mean, we started a podcast in 16, but we went into business for ourselves in the fall of 2018. And I'm looking at the total amount of money we made that football season. In probably a good 2 weeks now, that entire fall, so like 4.5 months, we make now in 2 weeks. Like things change dramatically fast. So yeah, the guy that we saw, who, remember, we got in some arguments with some of our followers and definitely people in the chat. They're like, you guys are being too harsh. He had a long way to go relative to, like, we're not looking for Zach Wilson and Justin Fields just to like make some this is a team trying to win playoff games. But guess what? It's starting right now. He's a starting quarterback this spring. It's time to rock and fucking roll. And we're going to find out. Well, Kyle is, and you and I will be, I'm sure, at some of these and just be able to see. I don't really know what you'll have a better view, I think, on the inside with Kyle, talking to his coaches about the verbiage and audibles. Like, to me, he's going to look fine, right? Unless he's really inaccurate. But if he's relatively accurate, like, it's probably going to look good. He's big. He's got a big arm. But like for Kyle, and we've been talking about this now, the audibles, the understanding where to go. He might complete a pass, and then later that day in the film room, Kyle will be furious. Like, you are not supposed to throw it there. And to me and you, we'll come on later that day on YouTube and the podcast, be like, you should have seen this throw he made to Ayuk. It turns out Kyle would be like, well, if we were playing the Rams, Jalen would probably be there, and that might be picked, right? So what happened last year, I'd argue, is pretty irrelevant, because the one thing, and coaches can be cliche about this, but whenever you go, like, how about the momentum off last year in football specifically? And every coach worth their salt always goes, well, they say this year's a new team. And the reason they say that is because on average, there's like a 30% turnover on teams in the NFL. And, some teams, obviously the shittier teams, sometimes it's even higher, but you have new players at several positions, always, just whether you're the Patriots, the Niners, or the Jags. And then you also have all these young guys like Ambry Thomas started playing a little bit and he showed some signs. Well, what if now he's just a legitimate starter? Like, your team is just dramatically different from year to year. So I agree with anyone who was critical last year. Like, yeah, he's a pretty big project, which I think we kind of knew, but we didn't really know because he was kind of unknown. But what if this year he's just much more comfortable? Like, this is a brand new year, I guess is my point. Now the jury's out. And I think the clock literally started Monday, because that's, I think, when they kind of get on the field. Once the rookie minicamp happens, which I think for the Niners is, I don't know if it's this weekend, it might be next weekend. Then that following week, we'll just start having voluntary camps. And that means practice. And that's Trey Lance's time to, like, stop that conversation or make Jimmy Garoppolo's career with the 49ers continue. Because we've been talking, that's a possibility right now. But it's up to Trey Lance. Like, I think Trey Lance controls it, which is how it should be. But not as much for a guy that's usually drafted that high with that many picks.
So Josh Allen's rookie year. And I use Josh Allen not because sometimes people say Josh Allen and Trey Lance have similar skills, but because Josh Allen was clearly a guy that, did not play at the top level of college football competition and needed to develop in the NFL. And he did. His rookie year, he was a 52.8% passer.
What'd you say?
Normally I round up, but when it's 52.8, I'm not going to round up. Okay? He started 11 games. He completed 52.8% of his passes. He threw 10 touchdowns. He threw 12 interceptions. The thing that Josh Allen needed to get better at is the same stuff in some way. I'm not saying they're the same guy, but is similar to the stuff that Trey Lance, I'm sure, needs to get better at. His arm strength is his arm strength. His footwork, they're spending all their time working on his footwork. But if his problem is not seeing it fast enough, well, then he needs to see it in real speed with guys truly jumping at his body to help him learn it. And there's only going to be one way to do that. You've been saying that for over a year. If we were talking about another quarterback on the roster, and Jimmy Garoppolo is the other quarterback on the roster, who constantly overwhelms us with greatness, then this would be a separate conversation.
You undervaluing Brock Purdy?
This is not Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. You know what Aaron Rodgers has a chance to do this year?
Win his third straight MVP?
Do you know the only other quarterback in the history of the league, only other player in the history of the league to do that?
Brett Favre.
That's right.
Who Marty Morningwig told me is the greatest player in the peak of his powers he's ever seen.
I mean, 3, John. 3. That's a good quote from Marty Morningwig.
I remember when he said, I thought it was kind of crazy, but then when you kind of go to his Wikipedia, 3 straight MVPs, and you realize they went to back-to-back Super Bowls, and you kind of think back when you were a kid, you're like, yeah, he was viewed as like Michael Jordan of football for those couple years, wasn't he?
Yes. Now, he shared the third one with Barry Sanders, but nonetheless.
Which is a pretty good guy to share it with, right?
Yeah. But I guess my point would be, and we can nitpick it, because I don't want to nitpick what Matt tweeted.
Do you think Rodgers is going to win his third straight?
I was thinking about that today. I mean, he got a lower percentage of the vote last year than he did the year before. It's going to be hard. I mean, Josh Allen could win it. Maybe Mahomes has a bounce back year, but could he win his third straight? I'll say the same thing I said about Belichick last year when I said I thought he'd be a great coach of the year candidate. It's going to be harder without Devontae, but Aaron will also get more credit if it's really good because Devontae's gone. So in that way, like, you'd rather have Devontae Adams. But I think it kind of sets up for him if he has another great year to be like, oh, my God.
He got less credit last year because everyone viewed their team as sweet, right?
Yeah, and he still won it. So can he win it? Yes, he can win it.
I agree.
The list of quarterbacks that don't underwhelm you from time to time is the majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, are they continually underwhelmed? I know they're not physically underwhelmed with Trey. We've watched them. If they're going to be, like, let's think about it for a second, right? If this is true and they're underwhelmed, what are the things they could be underwhelmed by? His progress, his technical progress, like on his footwork, right? And his understanding of the offense. Because I know they're not underwhelmed by his physicality, right? Well, part of a coach's job is to go, you know what? I can't give him Matt Ryan's offense. I can't even give him everything Jimmy Garoppolo had. But he gives me something that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't give me, and he gives this team something Jimmy Garoppolo didn't give this team. And we've got to find a way. And I think the way what you said to start this conversation is the important part. Like, it's happening.
Well,
it's happening.
I'm not a huge believer in any walk of life to just like hold on to the past. Like, things happen, and you're not in October 2021 anymore. And part of that's on him. Part of that's on anyone listening. If you're like, some people just hold on forever to the past or even just recent memory. And it's like, you have to move on, and they don't have a choice. Like, I mean, they have to.
So you're arguing, forget about the fact that you traded a bunch of picks for him and just treat him like a backup quarterback and make Jimmy Garoppolo the starter?
I'm arguing that, like, yeah, I think it's very valid that he might have been a struggle last year, but you have to come in like he has to have an opportunity to really show you that he's grown. And a large part of that is on him. Because anyone that's argued for like against Ryan Tannehill, they're like, who cares what Ryan Tannehill said? It's on Malik Willis. No one's arguing that's not on Malik Willis to like learn the offense and try hard. Yeah. But like, all people were saying was like, is he going to be like, as Mike Tomlin would say, basic human decency? You know, there's just some basic human decency. Like, and for a quarterback, everything that he hung his hat on coming out was the elite character, right? That's what he's known as, being very smart, high character guy. Well, what does that mean? When you think in quarterbacks, you think like Rivers, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees. Well, what do all those guys do? Well, they show up at 6 and the O-line got to DoorDash them food because they're still there watching film when those guys go home. Like, a lot of that stuff is on him. And it's unique, right? Because Rodgers replaced Favre. Like, doesn't get any harder than that. Luck kind of replaced Peyton because Peyton had missed the year. So there was a year removed and everyone saw how shitty it got. Like, Rodgers just literally replaced Favre. You know, I mean, this guy is replacing Jimmy Garoppolo while polarizing. Any 49er would say, well, he just brought us some credibility. He's got the train on the tracks. They build it around him, and we started having some success. And kind of like Alex. Alex came to the Chiefs when the Chiefs were drafting number 1 overall. So it's like they're flawed, and you nitpick them. But to me, there's a difference between like nitpicking Kirk Cousins, who got you to 1 playoffs, and just a guy that like every single year you're winning double-digit games, like Alex. Kind of, in fairness to Jimmy, when Jimmy plays 16, 17 games, they're going to win 10 plus. Now, it's hard. 2 of the 4 full seasons he missed. But like there is a bar. Like, he's not replacing I'm trying to think of some really shitty quarterback, but like some bottom 10 guy, right? But he's not replacing some elite guy, but there is pressure. Like what Jimmy hung his hat on was honestly the stuff Kyle kind of values, the intangible stuff. Like Kyle could live with scream at him for a bad pick, but he knew that like Jimmy knows what he's doing in theory.
Well, that's what you have to talk about if you talk about the situation, is who the coach is and what the coach values and what the coach wants, right? That's part of the equation here. In a lot of other situations, I don't even know, Jimmy Garoppolo, you're not having this conversation. A lot of other coaches don't have the equity, the longevity, this job security that Kyle Shanahan has, right? And the owner would want to see the young quarterback, and you would just kind of eventually have to go to the young quarterback because that's what everyone is telling you have to do.
Well,
Kyle is unique in that way.
Don't you think when you said like, because we say this a lot, I mean, humans say this a lot, the owner kind of just wants what the fans want, right? Because he knows that's good for business if it goes well.
Yes.
Like Jed wants a good quarterback or the new quarterback because he knows if the new quarterback's good, it's incredible for his business, which is what we all want, right? The new quarterback and any team, any fan wants the new shiny object to play and then be good.
How did Rich Scangarello become like the most known? He's like every leak is like must be Scangarello, or not even leak. I shouldn't use the word leak. I should use the word story. I feel like the other thing. There's not a lot of Niner leaks typically.
I think people feel like remember Darren Erman and Mark Jackson?
Yeah.
Feel like there's that type of vibe, even though there's never been a story come out about like Kyle and Rich like almost got into a fist fight, which there might as well be because that's what everyone feels. Like I need something juicy. Like did Rich throw a clipboard one time at Kyle because he disagreed with him? And Kyle said, "Wait till I force you to go to Kentucky at the end of the year."
Did they bet like Rich's kids' college fund on Mac Jones would have more career touchdowns than Trey Lance in the end?
It's weird.
Somebody should Google, if you don't know the story, Google Darren Erman and Mark Jackson. Good story.
Excellent story.
Secret recording of a coaches meeting was the part of the story there. Remember that?
And then I think a couple weeks later, Scalabrini was fired.
Scalabrini was part of that ouster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mark Jackson tried to fight him, or he tried to fight Mark Jackson, or they tried to fight each other. I don't remember.
Yeah, this is before Woj sold out to the big corporate money. He used to write these incredible hit pieces that were coming from the source. So they were, I'd say Woj had a stretch there for like 4 or 5 years of his hit pieces where it's just, that's the best content. You don't even need to be an NBA fan. You're like, God, this is juicy. He doesn't do that. Now it's just like, Clutch Sports says that Ben Simmons is, it's like, oh, Woj, go back to your roots. He'd be like, well, they pay me $9 million now.
Theory John from Swan Song in the chat. Isn't Lombardo from Philly? Skaggs came from Philly, or Skangs came from Philly.
But he covered, I'm pretty sure Lombardo's covered the Giants now for a while. But yeah, could be.
2020, Scangarello, Eagles, senior offensive assistant.
Weird. Scangarello, great Italian name, left after the Super Bowl season for some like weird title with the Eagles because it felt like him and Kyle didn't like each other. But then when Kyle needed someone, he came back.
Well, he went Niners 18, Broncos OC in 19.
Oh, okay, you're right.
And Eagles senior offensive assistant, then back to the Niners.
Okay, never mind. I was wrong.
Yeah.
So Kyle, he left for a legitimate job. And then Fangio wanted to fight him. Not reported, but I could see Fangio not liking him.
Yeah. Now, if Albright's breaking this story,
I'm pretty sure Fangio, in fairness to Rich, went through 3 OCs in his 3 seasons. Like,
did he really?
I think they had a different OC every year. I mean, it was Shermer, Scangarello.
Who was their OC last year?
I think Pat Shermer, who was the Broncos.
Correct.
It was who was the Broncos OC in 2018?
Bill
Musgrave.
But Vance Joseph was the head coach.
How many years was
Vic? 3 years, 2. So he went Scangarello,
then 2 Shermer.
Shermer for 2.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's crazy in football. It feels like it happens more than other sports. Like you can just get in the right spot and it go well. But sometimes it goes too well. Like Pat Shermer. Pat Shermer went from like this up and comer with Andy Reid. Then he gets a job. I think the Cleveland Browns hire him. And it was clear like this guy's not a head coach. But then he kind of has to like, fall back on the lower rung. But then he gets to Minnesota on this year where their team's loaded. Case Keenum, they go to the NFC Championship. It's like Pat Shurmur's got his swag back. We can't turn down a head coaching job, even though he's not a head coach. Takes a head coaching job, fired within like 18 months of the Giants. And then he's just off rhythm. So now he's just kind of bouncing around shitty teams. And then he's just off rhythm. It's all about the rhythm. And then once you find a good rhythm, you're like, you know what? I'll just be and this guy's not getting interviewed, but what's Andy's guy that's the defensive coordinator, who was the defensive coordinator for the Giants in 2007? Yeah, exactly. Like he got to be a head coach, disaster. Then he kind of fell down, and then he just linked up back with Andy. And now it feels like if Andy will keep you, be the defensive coordinator till he retires.
Elite DC.
Go operate like they used to do in like the 80s in college football. You will just keep the job till Andy wants to call it quits. They'll pay you a couple $1 million, and you'll just win.
Yeah. Yep.
And Andy likes you. Everyone likes you. It's just good spot.
Yep. They'll draft players for you.
The worst case, though, is like, let's say Andy retires, and they just like, well, you want to be the head coach? Kind of like Todd Bowles. Like Todd Bowles is in a great situation, just be the coordinator. But then Arians retires / gets fired. They hire him. What's he supposed to do? Say no?
Right.
Because you might as well control your own destiny. You couldn't be like, well, just pay me $3 million, I'll be the DC, because they elevate someone else, then that guy gets fired, then you're screwed anyway.
So you're telling me I can make 4 years salary in 1 year now? I guess I'll say yes to that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sign me to a 3-year contract? Guaranteed? I guess I'll say yes to that.
As Jim Tomsula, he's probably in his big house somewhere, in like Florida.
Exactly. Now, is Robert Saleh going to come back in 2023 to Kyle then? I don't know. Joe Douglas, I get good vibes from Joe Douglas.
Well, they're feeling themselves right now.
I know.
They are, and in fairness, everyone's feeling themselves. Actually, I listened to a bunch of Rich Eisen interviews. He had on a bunch of the guys. Mike Tomlin wasn't that, he was not feeling himself quite like, again, love Howie, but, Howie and Joe and just all the guys making the rounds. Even you listen to Steve Keim, GMs get very, very excited after the draft, especially if they think it went well. And Joe Douglas, they landed 3 of their top 10 players. And when it goes really well, you start throwing out nuggets. 3 of our top 10 players. He also told Rich Bryce Hall, the running back from Iowa State, I think was their 16th or 17th player on their board. So if you're him, you go, well, I just spent 6 months putting together a board, and I got 4 players in my top 16 on my team. So what am I supposed to do? Not be happy?
Jerry Jones showing his draft board. How about the Cowboys have revealed their draft board accidentally in some way, shape, or form in 4 of the last 7 drafts? Maybe it's more than 7. But
was that a stat someone threw out there?
Yes. Because did you see the one from this year?
Well, I saw Jerry hold it up because they were peppering him on the questions. He's pointing at Stevens.
Somebody, you can't read it, but you can see how long each name is and how long the college name is. So somebody went side by side. And it looks like Kayvon Thibodeau, Oregon, right? It matched, he was their number 1 player on their board.
Kayvon Thibodeau was the Cowboys' number 1 player?
Kayvon Thibodeau was the number 1 player.
Who was 2?
It matches up perfect. I don't remember. I could pull it up here in a second. But, and then, so between team videos that get posted on social, whatever, it's been 4 of the last, whatever, maybe 7 drafts. The Cowboys had inadvertently revealed their draft order, their big board.
What do you think about, Jerry was, I don't know many details, but in a little minor fender bender or something last night, but enough where, the ambulance was either called or was on site, who knows. He went to a hospital before going home. And I tweeted, again, tongue in cheek, but once upon a time, my grandpa, who died of Alzheimer's, I'll never forget hearing a knock on my door, and my mom answered it, and it was my neighbor, Merrill, telling my mom that he had just seen my grandpa fly through a red light. And I just remember, I was pretty young at the time, probably 12 or 11. But I just remember that my dad got home later that day from work, and you could just tell weird things were going on. And then he no longer. And then I think a week before, he had burned his hand at home. Just some of the signs that something's a little off. Took away his keys. And I tweeted maybe it's time to take away Jerry's keys. I'm not saying he's got Alzheimer's, but Jerry's getting up there in age. You just never know. And then a bunch of people were like, Jerry, do you think he drives? It's guys. Jerry Jones went to Arkansas, oil maverick from Texas. He doesn't live in San Francisco or New York City. Whether you're worth $5 billion or $5, if you're a human being in the suburbs and space, you're gonna drive sometimes. you think it's crazy that people just assume that super rich people just never drive? Like, if you had unlimited amount of money, Guy Haberman, worth $5 billion, wouldn't you still drive occasionally?
Yes. I think he definitely still drives sometimes.
Well, we know. We were on a group text of someone around Jerry Jones that not only texted us, he still drives. He's like, yeah, he just drives to work every day. Of course he does.
To me, I think being driven is really cool. A lot of, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it a lot, but sometimes I want to be by myself. And driving a car, I like some people, I like driving for the most part. You know what I mean? Like 7-hour drive. Like, I don't mind being the one that drives. I like it. So yes, I would. Also, part of the fun, if you got a few sweet cars, would be driving the cars.
Yeah.
Now, Jerry's probably just got like a big body Benz or whatever. But
well, yeah, and I'm not acting like, if he's going out with his wife and they're drinking, he has a driver. If he's doing work stuff, he has a driver. Like, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to park. It's busy.
But I think at like 8 a.m., Jerry couldn't hop in the Benz, swing by Starbucks, and head to the facility
where you have the best parking spot.
You're out of your mind. Like, and I started thinking, I'm like, Jeffrey Lurie drove. I mean, Mark Davis, I wouldn't put in their category, but like, he drove. I think Jed drives. Like, just because you're super rich does not mean you never drive. Now, if you live in San Francisco or New York City, Manhattan, if you're worth $1 billion, everything you're going to do is be driven because you can work. But Jerry, do you think he has he probably lives on a ranch, so a ton of space. And I bet his route to the facility, he ain't sitting in bumper to bumper often, right?
Yeah. It's not 45 minutes during prime working hours.
Yeah, I mean, you imagine Joe Lacob from Palo Alto drives to some Warrior games at Chase, or is driven all the time?
My guess would be driven. I mean, not that that's going to be an hour or maybe more. My guess would be driven. It's not.
He could do work,
swerve through traffic. So here was the photo for those of you who are watching. If you're listening, easy to find, or maybe you've seen it. Jerry holding up their draft board. That's you can't really make out what it says. But then somebody took on the right the blurry versions.
That's pretty good. God, we got some talented people on the internet,
right? That's part of what inspired me today. But so there's Kayvon, Evan Neal, Aiden Hutchinson, Garrett Wilson, Ahmad.
Can I red flag you really quick? Does 4 look like Garrett Wilson to you? Because I'm just it's blurry, but it does not necessarily look.
4.
He took the number of characters.
Yeah, I think they're just so. It does look like Ohio State. That's the part to me that matches.
Okay.
Because it looks like Ohio State.
That's fair.
Yeah. So you're matching up the characters with the name. Like Derek Stingley, LSU definitely matches, right? Like LSU, I guess it would either be LSU or USC. Those would be the two that kind of could look the same, blurry. But just great work by the internet. Just fantastic work.
Is Tyler Smith the guy they took?
Yeah, he's not from Utah, so somebody made a mistake there.
I was like, I didn't know the Cowboys drafted a guy from Utah.
No, that was a mistake.
Pretty good. Honestly, pretty good board. The Cowboys draft well, though, right? No one ever dispute Jerry. They don't draft well.
How do you know that's a legit board and not an accidental one? He showed a fake one. He showed accidentally. I think that's where you go back to the track record that they've accidentally revealed 3 other boards before.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? They draft and then they do their press conference at like 9:00 at night. He walks out of the room with the paper in his hand.
Yeah.
And honestly, they might, once they pick, they might have done the press conference because they weren't going to trade back in. They might have come back and did it, pick whatever their pick was, 22 or 23 or 21. They might have done that at 25. And he immediately, they go, let's just do the press conference now. He walks out with a thing in his hand. One thing you'd say about Jerry, he ain't hiding anything.
No. I mean, the reason the story about him liking Johnny Manziel is out is because they've talked about it, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and a lot of teams do admit stuff after the fact, except Belichick, right? Most teams will be like, 3 years ago,
yeah.
Patriots are the one team that rarely does that.
Somebody suggested, where'd my draft board? Did Devin Lloyd went after or before Belichick? Did Belichick pass on him or Belichick trade back?
Belichick was traded back with the Chiefs. He went after. No, Belichick drafted after Devin Lloyd was off the board.
So I've seen a few people, because Devin Lloyd was the guy, just like Kenny Pickett, everywhere you looked was to Pittsburgh, and Drake London was constantly to Atlanta. I've seen a few people suggest the stuff with Devin Lloyd to the Patriots was real, and the Jags just went and got him.
And maybe they traded above the Patriots because they knew that Belichick would. He wasn't
because it was real.
First or the second round.
Yeah. Do you know who has the NFL record for rookie tackles?
Patrick Willis.
Correct. All right, John. Let's tell the people about our friends at Sleep Number. Last night, when our buddy high up in NFL circles was texting us at 10:45 at night, Middlekauff was not responding, and I knew why. It's because he was sound asleep in his Sleep Number.
In fairness, I was in my Sleep Number bed, sleepnumber.com/am. I heard it vibrate and I was just close and peeked out, and I saw who the group text was. And I just didn't want to throw off my sleep pattern because once I would have got involved, I would have been.
It was going to be a long thread. Yep.
Yeah, and it started. It was a late 10:35, 10:40. I was shocked once I looked at the text this morning. Up for probably both of you guys. You guys went back and forth for a while. You guys were texting. It was like, geez, you guys were pretty animated. But sleepnumber.com/ham. Can't recommend the bed enough. You and I have had it for a long time. Get on it.
Sleepnumber.com/ham. 3 tips to help you improve your sleep timing. Try to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Create a relaxing bedtime routine at least 20 minutes before you plan to close your eyes. That's a good one. And an hour before bedtime, turn on your device's blue light blocker and try to stop using all devices altogether an hour before bedtime. That's also a great one. Here's the deal. Sleep Number smart bed owners who use their smart bed's circadian rhythm feature improve their bedtime and wake time consistently by 35 minutes for better quality sleep. So whether you like to sleep softer, like Middlekauff, Sleep Number at 40, or me, a little firmer on the bed, Sleep Number at 55, whatever you like, discover special offers now and for a limited time at Sleep Number stores, your local Sleep Number store, or at sleepnumber.com/ham. That's sleepnumber.com/ham. Sleep Number, proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep.
I see a headline right now of I didn't listen to it, but Brandon Clark, the dude that plays for Memphis, I think was on Zach Lowe's podcast. So I'm sure he said this on there because the headline is, even Brandon Clark agrees that Dylan Brooks' foul on GP2 was excessive. There's a picture. Slater just tweeted out a picture of it looks like Clay and Jordan Poole, it's at practice. And then in the background, these 2 double doors are opening, and it's just GP2 with his elbow. I guess that would be his good elbow, but he's just watching in the background. It's kind of sad.
It's shitty. We both heard you told me about it. GP1 was on Ryan Russillo's podcast and was very good.
It was good.
It was very good. Yeah. Big news, John. He's back. Deebo has followed the 49ers on Instagram, in addition to following Trey Lance, Chef Huey Lee, I think, I'm not positive, but that's what it looks like that name is, and his agent, Tory Dandy.
It's a good crew.
I know we laugh at this. Would you follow, if you did not follow a team you were not going to play for, would you follow them?
I mean, I follow some like the T-Wolves. I follow like the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, I follow some random teams. Again, this is where it kind of bothers me a little bit. I think we really overrate, like you wouldn't overrate, be like, John Middlekauff is dating so-and-so. Like that, I'm in a relationship, we're dating. That's hard action. John Middlekauff hosts a podcast with Guy Haberman. Like, that's real. You could make some guesses on social media, but they'd all be guesses. I'm all over the map on following, unfollow. I guess I don't unfollow, I mute unless you follow. If you follow me and I follow you and I don't like you anymore, I mute you. If you don't follow me and I realize, I found that with actually, I wouldn't say a mutual friend, you know him better than me. I realized he wasn't following me anymore and he had some kind of tweets. It's like, I don't need his negative energy in my life, so it's an easy unfollow.
Oh, can't wait to hear who that is. Brian Hawkins?
I think we overrate this stuff. Now, this one, I get it, but I don't know, man. He was never going anywhere. It was fun to talk about, but.
Well, we don't think that the Niners are never going to send him anywhere, but he requested a trade.
I'm not saying he didn't want out. I'm just saying
and unfollowed everybody. So if you said publicly, I'm breaking up with Guy Haberman, and then unfollowed me on social media, and then 2 weeks later, people found that you refollowed me on social media, they'd go, oh, maybe the circumstances changed.
You want me to unfollow you right now?
No.
You were talking yesterday. You want to create some controversy.
Hopefully people wouldn't find this footage. But like, I think sometimes we get so dismissive of social media, which I'm pro being dismissive. I am. I've been, you know me. I've said it's not real life for so long as we've been doing this together. But it doesn't mean that things that happen there don't reflect real world actions.
I think we flip-flopped. I used to think it was life. You didn't think it was life. Then you got more into it, and now I hate it. And then we're kind of meeting in the middle now.
So you don't think it means anything?
No,
is that what you're saying?
Obviously, it doesn't mean nothing. But it's just, I am ready for social media / Deebo to come to an end. Now, it's Deebo probably not going to come to an end because unless they sign a contract, I don't expect to see him. Now, the one thing will be interesting because I don't think Trent Williams is going to be there until the mandatory. Nick Bosa, I think it's pretty clear, like he probably not going to be there. But Deebo is going to be discussed differently than those guys, right? Now, when the mandatory thing comes, is Deebo going to be there? Because then if he's not, like, to me, that's tangible, right? You get fined if you don't show up. Trent and Bosa both got on a plane and came to this. And again, it might be unfair to Trent. He could easily be there this week or not. Honestly, I guess I'd put him in a category I don't even care. He's allowed to do what he wants at this point in time. Same with Nick. Honestly, same with Deebo. If you just told me, Deebo's training on his own, would you have thought much about it if this whole thing hadn't happened?
No, not a thing.
But that's going to be whenever people are allowed out to practice, who's going to be the first guy they look for, right?
Deebo Samuel.
Do you think it'll be like noted, oh, Nick Bosa's also not here, but Deebo's going to be the headliner? Because they'll easily say, yeah, Nick told us he wasn't going to be here. Trent told us he wasn't going to be here. Deebo, yeah, we haven't talked. Because even Kyle said after the draft, he's like, we haven't talked a couple weeks.
Well, that'll be the question, right? Have you talked to Deebo? Did he tell you he wasn't coming? Did he tell you when he might show up?
Did he Instagram someone, DM the Niner account? Niner account follow him? Is it mandatory as a account manager for a team to follow all your own players?
Yeah, I've talked to somebody about that before. Not just follow your own players, but this was a college person I talked to. But like when you tweet out highlights, like they're going to notice whose highlights get tweeted, whose highlights don't get tweeted. So teams, you make highlight packages for all your guys, and you make sure there was a part. Remember the book 7 Seconds or Less by Jack McCallum? Great book. Yeah. I loved it.
Back when I used to read in 2000s.
Somebody wrote a piece. When did I read this? Maybe it was yesterday. Brian Curtis wrote a piece about it, and I'd forgotten this, but one of the things in the book was about how Sean Marion kind of feels slighted. One time he's in the huddle, he looks up, and the Kings like dancers and the hype crew is on the floor, and they're all wearing Nash, Amari Stoudemire jerseys, but no one's wearing a Sean Marion jersey, and that pissed Sean Marion off. But the social thing is stuff that these teams, especially I know with colleges, I'm sure with the NFL, I guarantee you they hear from agents.
I'm not disputing that the guys don't make a big deal of it,
because I think they also view it like that. That is part of, like, for me to be an endorser, you have to help build up my brand. So that's why I think you see it in college for NIL teams tweeting out guys' highlight tapes all the time, because it helps them put together a package. It helps them raise their profile.
But don't you think it's kind of stupid? Like, and I understand Sean Marion being mad that they're wearing, I don't know, the guys won back-to-back MVPs. But if you went just a random NBA fan, 35 and older, and just brought up Sean Marion, what's the first thing they say? Like, oh, the Suns teams, alley-oops, Steve Nash.
Yeah, his jumper.
Yeah, but like his brand as a player was built from the team.
Yeah, but I think people view him as like a role player when he was averaging like 24 points a game.
Funky jumper for sure.
Apparently Trey responded, "Dog, I need whoever watches your IG to watch my wife's too."
Trey Lance is married?
No, but he's just being funny. Do you see what Drake did? Some guy talking shit to him at Instagram. Drake replied and was like, "I just followed your wife," and messaged her. And the guy responded like laughing his ass off. Drake DM'd the guy's wife, "I'm here if you need me, mama."
That's pretty good. That's an incredible move.
Isn't that fantastic?
That is a fucking elite move. That's pretty special. Did you see today that I just saw it because it got tweeted into my timeline and it makes sense, but it really is. I don't want to say diabolical, but it is kind of nuts. Ray J said that the Kardashians created the whole sex tape leak. Like they did it. It was purposely done. And like Barstool did this thing where they brought up the tape and it's like the #1 sex tape, the way it was labeled when it was like, he basically admitted that like Kim, he was joking because he was, a famous singer when they were having sex or whatever, dating. And he's like, it'd be funny is like if this ever got out, it'd be big for the brand. Completely kidding. Like Ray J's like, I never was about putting out. Kim's like, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. And then he said like the next couple days, she tells the mom, who it's crazy. It's like their mom, but / like clearly the business mind. She thought it was a genius idea. They got it, and the rest is history.
Did the Paris Hilton video, was that before or after Kim? I feel like it was before.
I think Paris was first because Kim was like Paris's, right-hand wing girl, basically.
Yeah. I haven't seen, I don't even know, is it out yet? The Tommy Lee, Pam show?
Yeah, good Hulu, good watch.
Because how does that stuff come out? Like that one, right, was
that one the guy
somebody doing work at their house stole their tape.
Well, Tommy threatened to kill him, and the guy was pissed off, stole a safe. They stole the safe hoping it would be money and stuff, and they stumbled upon the tape. It was kind of, the guy, the whole show is kind of based on this long Rolling Stone article, a little bit like Winning Time and Jeff Pearlman. He lives in Marin, the guy that stole the tape.
Is he rich?
No, because he kind of got screwed in the whole deal.
Oh, somebody else made money off it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Karma's a bitch.
I know.
All right, John, I was reading a great piece that Matt Barrows wrote in The Athletic, and it was actually a lot of good insight from Adam Peters, who and about, kind of not just the players they drafted, but what they look for. It was really good. Highly recommend. One of the things in the article caught my eye, and I thought it would be a great thing to address, which is what is required for the 49ers to like you as a player. And you've talked to more NFL people about Danny Gray and Ty Davis-Price. But I think this highlighted part is interesting. Said Peters about Danny Gray, the thing that really stood out to us, and Kyle mentioned as well, is that his #1 trait is speed. But his #2 trait, we thought, was his toughness and his fearlessness with the ball in his hands. He's got a mindset to score every time he gets it. Even the photo that accompanies, you could easily, if I blurred this image and gave it Niner colors, this could be an image of Deebo. Danny Gray's legs in this photo actually look bigger than they look on tape. His thighs.
But this clearly looks like a quick screen right to him to get out in space. The guy's blocking, or it could be Ayuk too. Like they run that play.
Yep.
Sometimes, Andy, I remember told when I was asking about Patrick Mahomes, the way he evaluated him was siphon out all the wide receiver screens. Now, obviously, with a quarterback, it's different because that pass is like, you and I can make that pass.
Right.
I think with wide receiver screens for the wide receiver with the 49ers, that feels like one of their main plays, right? I bet they love it when they watch that. And obviously, with the spread offense, wouldn't you say in your history watching just the Sonny Dykes, Leach teams, they do run a quick play to their wide receivers and just get them in space fast? Like that's kind of a core tenet of the offense.
I would say a lot of offensive, if you talk to an offensive coordinator in the last 15 years, they probably said some version of, we always love to say in our coordinator voice. I'm channeling Jim McElwain, our buddy Jim McElwain, when I say it. We got to get our playmakers in position to make plays. And in space, you'd probably add that, right? And I think it's just, it's obvious. It's why the Dante Pettis miss was so glaring. Because Dante, was not this kind of fearless, get the ball in his hands. And maybe they felt that. Maybe they got tricked a little because specialists, right, do have a reputation for that. And you do have to, when you rip off big punt returns and punt returns, you are running full head of steam. But when he got to the 49ers, it didn't quite turn out to that, to be that. But I think one thing some teams eliminate players on their boards for knee injuries. I would think the Niners, just the second they think you're not tough, you cannot play for Kyle Shanahan. And tough, relative football tough.
I talked to a buddy the other day about this player because it's weird. I would say this guy flew under the radar a little bit publicly. I would say internally, like in the teams, everyone was watching him and on this guy. He's like, I love this guy. And the two things he mentioned were he thought he just played really tough because he's willing to just run, get north and south. And sometimes that means going through people. But the one thing he said is his play speed with the ball in his hands, because the knock on him is the hands. But he said when the ball is in his hands, he can fly. Like his play speed was up there with anyone in this draft behind like Olave, who's viewed as the fastest guy. But like this guy can fly. He thought this was an awesome pick. Like he just really liked the player. Like universally, he's like, regardless of what team I was on, I would have been cool with our team drafting this guy. This guy can play. And it probably is a little bit like if he had played at like USC, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State, because we've talked about most of the wide receivers, but it's the smaller school guys just fly a little under the radar. I would say the one guy who got promoted, and part of it might just be us because of the connection with Trey, was Watson, right? But even Sky Moore, the dude the Chiefs took, I've talked to a couple people like, I love that guy. But all we talked about is like Wilson, Olave, Burks, all the guys that were going to go in the top 20. And that's just what happens. But every year, guys go in the second and third round. I mean, look at the 49ers. Best player on their offense is the second-round pick. Guy just got $100 million. A.J. Brown went after him.
Well, and even, Brandon Ayuk, who's become fantastic for them, was not – I mean, he was a first-round pick.
Well, if the Niners hadn't drafted him, I think there's probably a pretty decent chance that he's picked in the early 30s, right?
You mean that he falls into the second round?
Well, because they drafted him in 27. Like, there's no lock he was going to go those like 4 or 5 picks. Who knows?
Right.
I mean, those teams, the Packers had already.
And there are a bunch of other receivers got drafted at the top of the second round that year.
Some people might have liked, who knows? If we asked the Bengals scouting director, they'd be like, yeah, we had Higgins above IU because we needed that. It's not inconceivable. The Niners like guys that other guys might not like, right? Because they value that toughness aspect. They just like Chris Olave. Because I bet once Deebo went on the trading block, well, his own trading block, not the Niners trading block, but people were calling, Kyle had to watch. Like, if you're John Lynch, you'd be like, well, you haven't because it would have been a waste of time before the situation. But you should obviously watch these top 5 guys, right? Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. I bet he did not like Chris Olave because I was talking to my buddy about Sonny. Or Danny. I keep mixing him up with his head coach, Danny Gray, not Sonny Gray.
He's like throwing at dudes' heads.
My guy didn't like Chris Olave. He's like, I don't see him getting enough press. He's not physical. He can fly, but he's like, a lot of times in the NFL, that guy he's just getting wide open in college. Like that doesn't like Garrett Wilson and Treylon Burks. They're doing shit that translates. Chris Olave's speed translates, but like. He's kind of loosey-goosey route runner. He's just flying wide open against – you're not playing Iowa corner. You're not playing Northwestern. It's a little more difficult. So my point is that if you could ever get a hold of Kyle, rank the top 5 guys just in case we end up trading, Deebo Samuel for the 10th pick in some package. Chris Olave was probably the last.
Interesting. Well, I mean, 6 letters says Crocky doesn't love his route running. Speaking of Eric Crocker.
But see, to me, I can live with an average route runner as a 3rd-round pick.
And Croc says he has trouble separating. Yeah, I also think that's a good point. I also think that this is where Kyle Shanahan – I think Kyle Shanahan becomes valuable with players like that because part of what happens is guys get open based on what he creates. And part of it is you get guys the ball in a position where they didn't have to run a route to begin with, right? Like that photo we just looked at of Danny Gray.
I'm not pretending to be Lincoln Riley, Mike Leach, Sonny Dykes here. I would say that their offense is known as pretty basic when it comes to
Deebo a premier route runner?
Not at all.
So, but the analysis it doesn't change. Deebo's also a little different.
But part of becoming a good route runner is why do I pay my offensive coordinator 7 figures? Why am I paying my, offensive specialist a lot of money? My wide receiver coach, my head coach. Who is Kyle at his heart and core and his soul? He's a skinny wide receiver in Texas. I mean, seriously, like he's even talked about like I broke into this league as a wide receiver coach. Wouldn't you say for a guy that loves running the ball, he does like have this soft spot for that position? Like that's just not soft would be the wrong word, but like that's kind of his baby. Like,
but they have to be tough.
I mean, he soft is the wrong word. Like he just has his hands all over that position, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I would love for Kyle moving forward to always talk about receivers by saying we. I told Danny Gray, guys like us, if Kyle talked like that, I think that'd be fun. We as receivers, although he loves playing quarterback, so maybe he made a position change.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about I love hearing about I watched actually just for fun today. I went back and I hadn't watched Elijah Mitchell's college tape since last year's draft. And this morning I watched some of Elijah Mitchell's college tape because what I said to you before was watching Ty Davis Price. It just gave me the same immediate 2-clip reaction to the way I felt watching Elijah Mitchell last year. And it was as I remembered it. It looks.
Wouldn't you say the difference, though, too, is like every single game, it's like, oh, they're playing Ole Miss, who's 10th in the country. Oh, they're playing Alabama. Oh, they're playing Texas A&M.
Right.
And he is 15, 20 yards down the field. Do you know what's crazy? The craziest thing about LSU? They had they had more players drafted than Alabama this year. They had the second most players drafted in the conference. Like I just thought they sucked. Now, not that I didn't assume they didn't have NFL players on the team, but they just have random running backs getting drafted in the third round. Because when they drafted him, I was like, I didn't watch that much LSU football. You throw on, just type his name into YouTube. He is lowering his shoulder on the sideline like 20 yards down the field with like multiple SEC defenders. This guy, I was told by a guy that really liked him, thought he was by far the hardest running back in the draft. Like the guy that just ran the hardest. And you just see like he runs hard. It's not just when the offensive line parts like the Red Sea and you can just hit the hole. Like that's pretty basic. Honestly, teams don't give you that much credit on just a wide open hole and you just hitting it with your speed. But like what happens when contact happens? And this fucking guy runs his ass off through contact. No wonder Ed got run out. I mean, you have the second most players drafted in the conference. I mean, I think from the outside, it's like, yeah, it's going a little weird, but he just won the national championship. To them, it's like we should be like minimum 10 wins every year. And then you realize, yeah, they probably should.
Well, did you see they just had to pay a bunch of money to keep their Keyshawn, is it Butte? Remember him?
He a running back?
The receiver.
Oh,
number one. Really good player.
Sweet player.
They just had to
was he planning to do the Jordan Addison thing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He was going to leave and somebody stepped up to pay him before he departed. So I think that's part of why you get like Texas is the worst of both worlds right now. They're not winning and they're not producing talent. LSU everyone was mad because they're like, look at all this talent we have. How is this possible?
I know, it's crazy. If I'm Texas, it's like we're cutting all these checks and we're losing to Kansas. We're losing to Kansas. What is going on? That to me, it's the triple worst.
Losing to Kansas.
No talent.
Applebee's guy Applebee's guy is good though. That kid can play.
Game winner.
Yeah,
that was a cool moment. The guy, cool. Texas lost to Kansas.
Kansas, John fought last year. Kansas is coming around. I'm telling you what.
And then they didn't have a player drafted. Do you think it's the worst? It's got to be one of the worst, 18-month stretches in the program's history. Lose to Kansas, not a player drafted. The way they lost Oklahoma.
Yeah, 5-7. They did go 5-7 back-to-back years in 15 and 16.
They had a coach's monkey
fired Charlie Strong,
who bit a kid.
Yeah. That's
you're blaming the
bad.
kid.
That's bad. I don't think you're supposed to go back there and put his hand in the cage.
Pole assassin. Yeah,
not allowed to say that, but
there was a sign said "Don't touch the monkey." What if the kid's
kid
5
can't read?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
5-7. Do you think
5-7?
Do you think Sark's on the hot seat? Like if he went,
hell yeah, he is.
Would he get fired?
I don't know if he get fired, but to answer your question, hell yeah, he's on the hot seat. Are you kidding me? At Texas?
Well, if he's on the hot seat, then what would his minimum wins have to be? Have to go above 500.
8,
right?
7. Does he get fired if he wins 7?
Depends. If he goes 6-6, is he getting fired? 6-6 would be ugly.
He might. Now they also got that kid Quinn Ewers. I don't know if he's playing this year, but
yeah, they do. They went to Ohio State. That's 15, but he got $1 million. Then he's already transferred. Why are they getting so many? They get some.
Well,
weird
remember
guys.
he had to leave. Texas doesn't let you make money in high school. There's a rule. Yeah. So he left. He's like, well, fuck, I can go make $1 million. Smart. I'll come back to Texas later. That's where I always wanted to play. So,
what if Sark lands Jordan Addison? He hasn't.
Why would you? If you're Jordan Addison,
but he hasn't committed there yet, has he?
No, but he was playing catch with Bryce Young the other day
at Alabama.
In L.A.
Do you think? Why wouldn't Alabama get him?
Why wouldn't Alabama get him?
What if Nick just gets him? Like, oh yeah, good one, Lincoln.
Well, he's friends with Caleb too. That's the other one. How about Pole Assassin? Name of the pod. Do you guys find it interesting that Mike Shanahan met with Ty Davis Price? So here's part of that question, right? For people that missed that came up.
I did. Guy didn't.
What's that?
I thought it was a little weird when I saw the quote.
Well, the more so, what happened was Saturday night. Somebody I don't remember who asked the question. Like Ty Davis Price told the media he had met with Mike Shanahan on his visit.
Yeah.
So then it comes up to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and Shanahan's like, "Wait, what?" Kyle's initial reaction was, "I don't know what you guys are talking about," and then John kind of jumps in and was like, "Oh yeah, that was Mike just happened to be here that day when we brought guys through on visits."
Yeah.
But then he made a joke about Mike's in his office for 13 hours a day. Ha ha ha. You usually got to go to him. So do you think it meant something that Mike Shanahan met with Ty Davis Price?
Well, I don't think it's inconceivable. Like Mike Shanahan clearly in the office. So we could go, is it a big deal that he's at the office? Could it be draft time? He's there maybe helping Kyle do some scheme stuff. He might be helping Kyle draw up some plays for the season with Trey. He's at the office. The way a visit works, right? Someone picks him up at the airport, brings him around. He has an itinerary from 8 a.m. or whenever he shows up. You know, if he flies in at night, someone picks him up at the hotel or whatever the next day, brings him in the morning. Maybe gets breakfast at the facility, meets immediately with the running back coach. Maybe the offensive coordinator down there too. You know, for Kyle, it might not be Kyle, but send some other offensive assistants. Then he's either going to spend a lot of time with John or Kyle. Say a minute. But this whole time, a guy like me or a scout is kind of taking him around. Right? You kind of wait for him and then because he doesn't know where he's going and you're kind of taking him away. So if let's say Kyle spent an hour with him, like just personal conversation, maybe watch a little film, whatever he's going to do. He leaves Kyle's office. Kyle goes on to do other shit, doesn't know where he goes. Now, to me, the only red flag is like, what really is Mike doing there? Because I could see it be simply like maybe Mike going down to get a soda and they run into each other at the cafeteria. Or is it as simple as like they're walking by, the door's open, and he's like, "Hey, coach, you know, the younger guy trying to just be in with the Shanahan family. You want to meet Ty?" And he's like, "I'll bring him in. I met 1 million players." So it can be nothing, or it could be something, not necessarily that he met him, because it's pretty easy to like run into someone, but like, what's he doing there?
Well, yeah, I think
I don't think it's weird him meeting him at all. I bet this guy met so many people on a visit, he would never even be able to point out a lineup.
The thing that would be weird is if on the itinerary there's 20 minutes where he sits down with Mike Shanahan.
And I think it's pretty clear that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's what would be weird. I don't think it's weird that Mike Shanahan hangs around. His kid runs an NFL team. He is football junkie Mike Shanahan, who, remember, Kyle has said this.
He has an office, though.
Mike didn't just like leave the Washington football team because he was I'm ready to hang it up. Like Kyle has said, like, I don't like that my dad's career ended that way coaching, like that's how it went down.
Well, he literally tried to get back in with the Niners when they interviewed him.
That's right. That's right. But previously. So it's not like Mike the bug left him.
No. Do you think it's a little weird he has an office?
No. It's I don't think it's that weird.
I don't either.
I mean, I don't think it's weird.
I don't either. But
I do think
your theory's always been you think Kyle's insecure about it.
I think Kyle knows that when people are aware that Mike is around, that people in Kyle's mind jump to bigger conclusions than what the reality is. And so I don't think Kyle loves everyone knowing how involved Mike is, because Mike, while is involved, Mike is not pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And I think my impression of just the way Kyle talks about it is Kyle just doesn't love it being public, because then people suggest that Mike is doing. What was the story? No, was it the quarterback thing last year? Was that what it was? The draft?
Yes, that Mike Shanahan wanted Mac Jones.
Yeah, so I think that's Mike Shanahan was the one telling all the media, right? So I think Kyle just doesn't love it because it creates just a headache for him that there's no way for him to prove that Mike Shanahan isn't the one calling the shots. And the other part of it that I think makes it hard for Kyle is, of course, he listens to his dad. Of course, he hears his dad's opinions. He can't sit up there and be like, I ignore everything my dad says. He's a crazy guy. because it's not true. Mike has great wisdom. But if he says that, then it's like, so was Mike telling you what to do? So it's really, I think it's a lose-lose for Kyle to talk about it publicly, even though he loves having his dad around, and his dad, and don't forget, it's also unique. Mike coached John Lynch. So Mike is no interloper. Like, Mike's not in the way.
Yeah,
John
there's
Lynch
not
is
like
happy
some
to have him around.
insecurity with his GM. Yeah, I would imagine there are times when John wants him around more than Kyle. Who knows? And that could be untrue,
maybe,
but it wouldn't shock. John Lynch loves Mike Shanahan, right? Loves Mike Shanahan. And clearly, love Kyle would be strong, but clearly their relationship's really pretty strong. It's just different because you play for a guy, you kind of get sentimental as time goes on. When you work with a guy, there's just an ebb and flow of life. But I understand where Kyle, even though it's like, I think he's lucky in the market we live in. Like, no one really cares. If he was in New York, Philly, or Boston or one of those, it would be, anytime it would come up, I could see him like trying to avoid it at all costs. It'd be a thing.
If I told you Mike Shanahan was Mike Middlekauff and two-time Super Bowl winning coach, still wanted to be around but couldn't get a head coaching job, and he was there as a consultant in the organization, no one would say anything.
Well, think about this. I'm a fucking podcaster. I owe my parents absolutely everything I have in my life. Can you imagine being a head coach in the NFL when your dad literally was also a head coach, and you go, I would not have, you would think this, I would never have gained this knowledge or be sitting where I'm sitting if it wasn't for my dad, because I love him. And then from a professional standpoint, he is my idol and my mentor. I think Kyle's even said that before.
Yeah,
like he
of course
idolizes his
idol.
dad.
He has called him, yes.
Not from a like the way we think about our parents, the way he thinks about as a parent, being a good parent, being hard, raising him, the morals and stuff. As a football coach, that's his professional and personal idol. So yeah, but he's also like, do you think he's pretty lucky? He's with one of the biggest brands in the NFL, but it's not that crazy, right? Washington was pretty nuts. Like, that was a crazy time. And I think it kind of scarred the family. I think it does piss them off. And, I think at their core, they actually have some parallels to the Middlekauff family. They can be negative, when you think Mike, he's a kind of a little short, edgy guy. Kyle, isn't Mr. Happy.
That's why I like Bumgarner
than Mike.
So I like Bumgarner.
His default is staring at it. The guy was staring at his eyes.
I wish a motherfucker would. Is basically what that umpire was doing.
Would he get suspended if Bumgarner would have shoved him to the ground?
Would Bumgarner? The umpire.
Bumgarner.
Yeah.
So you couldn't touch him.
No.
You have to let him touch. What? When did touching the hands? Was this the first year? I don't remember.
No, last year. I think it was last year.
Well, if they asked for it, now every time you got to walk by.
When you come off the field starting last year, we check you.
Every inning?
No. After the first inning.
Oh, so that's why every first inning the guy's hands checked.
Just everything. His pockets, his glove, his hat, the whole thing.
So usually I've seen some, the guy goes like this, the guy walks by.
Yeah, dude was being a dick. I don't like, guys, this would be my memo if I'm the commissioner. Okay, everybody, our plan, let's keep our best players in the games. Do you think to yourself, am I about to kick the best player out of this game right now? If I'm about to do that, then I shouldn't do it. Let's start with that, okay? Especially for words.
Do you think the rule, like, do we really need to be checking hands every first inning? Or is it like, was spider tag probably a pretty big
spider tag?
Do you think it was probably a pretty big issue in the league?
I mean, an issue, like, everyone was using it. Was that really a problem? I mean, we could debate that.
You think basically every pitcher was using spider tag?
I think a lot of guys clearly were using it.
So maybe they had to do this.
Well, it just became a thing. That after the Astros cheating, it just became this whole stupid thing that everybody, we got to do it now. For who, for what? Let's quote Ricky Waters. So dumb.
What if you just like wanted to get tossed and you just had a big ass glove, but you like, I don't know how you'd avoid it touching your hand, like put like bird shit or something in there for the umpire. You hated the guy. You busted it out on your walk, for him to like grab it. And it was something like just to mess with him. I don't know how you do it, but something where it got on his hands. It was gross, but it would avoid your hand. Like maybe put a glove, like a plastic glove on as you're walking off the mound.
Yeah, you need like a fake, like something they would have in a movie, like a fake hand.
Like the Wizinator.
What guys use when they like when thieves to cover up their fingerprints. You have fake fingerprints, maybe.
Yeah. Glove doesn't fit. Got to quit. Time to eat.
Yeah, I think it's almost time to eat.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. Coming over to your house tonight for a Cinco de Mayo.
When are you going to be here?
I don't know. Hawkins text me when he was picking me up. I got some oops and scoops. I got some Coronas.
What's your oops and what?
Well, I just mean the scoops. I got some bag of chips. I was just at the CVS. So I grabbed the bag of chips.
I'm going to be so stuffed tonight. Alyssa actually had an idea for a restaurant where you serve everything in reverse. And I said, that'd be a great idea because then I would never fill up on chips because those would be the last thing that comes.
So you start with like the steak?
No, you start with a dessert. I think it's a fucking genius idea. Actually, I'm going to edit this out. It's too genius. I don't want this out there publicly.
Here's my pushback on the idea. As someone, like, if I have a dessert in my hand and I'd also want the dessert and I have like meal, like if I'm driving somewhere, like let's say I get some cookies and I have like a cheeseburger and fries. I've bit the cookie before, but I like the taste of that before.
Yeah. I also think a meal is a social thing. So part of the meal is waiting for the steak to arrive.
Good point. Right. At a restaurant, you're saying?
Yeah. Part of it is like, oh man, what'd you order? Oh, I can't wait to see it. But you still
I think she might be onto something. The rotation, just change the rotation.
Yeah. Tonight it's tacos. We've got the whole house smells, John. We've got like some taco, like some beef that's been in the crock pot all day.
Okay,
so it's gonna be shredded.
I thought when you said the whole house smells, like when I was younger, I think had a possum die. Or something would die, and something would die, like in back in the attic, or something, and you would just smell the house, and you have to remove it.
Yeah,
that's where you were going to go with. Like,
yeah,
we found some dead rats.
All right, later, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Peace.